In this video, we're going to look at the document object. The document object is the highest object in the document object model structure. The document object represents all the HTML elements on our page. And you do have to use the object name when we use the document. So we'll have to put document dot and then the name of the method we're trying to call from the document object. So let's take a look at some examples that we can do. Here are three pretty popular methods of the document object, and the first one is the query selector method. The query selector method lets us query for the contents of a particular selector on a web page. Query selector all, if we have multiple versions of that selector, we can get all of those things returned, and we can process them all as a group. And we have the document write, which we have seen before. We've done document write. So let's take a look at these in detail. So coding selectors. We have the document.query selector. That's our method that we're going to call. And we're passing in a value inside quotes of pound rate, which we know this is an ID of something on our web page. So it's going out and querying for the item on our page that has this ID applied to it. And it's assigning that piece of HTML to this constant called rate. Okay. Here's another example where we're saying document query selector all. We're getting all of the anchor tags off of our page, all of the links. And we're going to store that in a constant called links, and we can process each of those items that gets returned, which we'll look at later. We could also use query selector to get all of the items that have .error as their class name. So using an element ID, we can use a regular element type, we can use a class, we can use any of those things to try and get pieces of our web page pulled into a constant so that we can do things with it. We can also use descendant selectors. So in this case, we're using document query selector all to get all the H2s that are inside the section that has an ID of FAQs applied to it. All the H2s inside the FAQs ID. We can also do something like this. Get all of the divs with a dot closed class applied to them, because we're doing query selector all, so it's going to get multiple things returned to us, and we'll store them in a variable. That variable is going to be an array of all those things. And here's an example of getting more than one thing. Give me all the H2s from the FAQ sections, and give me all the paragraphs from the div that are inside a div. And those will be stored inside of an array. So query selector all always gives us back an array. And then we can use these different kinds of selectors to pick out and get pieces and parts of our page however we want to, using IDs, using classes, and just using the actual tags if we want to. And then the document.write method lets us write, and we've done this part before, anything in the quotes here gets written as HTML to our web page. So these are all methods that we can use from the document object to pull information from our page, and later on we'll use those to also update information on our page.